Hey everybody, welcome back. This week we talk about Porch. Come on in. Okay, we made it through the insanity of Wall Street bets and GameStop. Wait, what? We're not going to see GameStop be resurrected into a $500 billion company? Well, not right now. That played out this week, but what I wanted to do was spend some time just talking about a smaller company that I think is ripe for disrupting an industry. So let's dig in. This is Porch, and Porch is essentially a company that connects home professionals with people that are moving. That's where they've started. So I know that I have to move across country. Let's say I'm going to go onto Porch's website as a consumer and say, oh, help me move. Or I need to buy a new house and I need to get an inspection on my old house or my new house to make sure that everything's ready to go when I move in or out. And that's where Porch lies. What Porch has is, and what I think is attractive about the company, is that they are essentially creating a CRM for inspection for a lot of smaller companies. So what Porch is doing is creating the software that runs a lot of smaller companies in the moving and house buying industry. So for inspectors, for movers, and what's really neat is that they create the software that these companies and services use. Sometimes they actually fulfill themselves, if in the case of moving, and they get access to the customers because the way they're selling this software is they say, here, John Mover, you can use all this software for free if you give us access to your customers, and we can start marketing to them for other services. And then so a lot of these inspectors and moving companies don't want to write their own software. They don't want to pay somebody else. So it's a deal for them. What Porch essentially does is writes the software that gets used by inspection companies and moving companies and lets their customers, which are other businesses, use it for free. And then they take whatever they're making on that software and make a better service, of course, which then makes it more attractive for all of the customers that they have, and so on and so on. So that's the flywheel here. So the really interesting part about this is really how they're leveraging the access to those customers. They're saying what the valuable part here is, and we'll go through this more in a second, is the customer themselves. We can give away the software for free as long as we can market to these folks, because we know when they move, they're going to need a lot of different things. They're going to need an inspector, they're going to need new cable, they're going to need cleaning services. There's a lot of associated costs, not just moving, not just inspection, that they can play into. And if they can corner that market and create the best software, it's going to be natural for all these other companies to jump on board. Here's a couple of overviews. So you can see on the left, they've talked about Palm Tech and this being a competitor to one of their in-house inspections companies, and that they provide software to them. And that every time there's a transaction that happens for another company's inspection service, they get a small portion of that to come back to them in a transaction pricing. And then for roofing, think of it like there's thousands, tens of thousands of roofing companies across the US, and Porch providing the service that each one of them use to say, okay, we can have your raw materials, we can keep in track of your customers, we can update them every day, all the nice things that software can do for you. Someone going out and saying, okay, we're going to be the best in the industry at providing roofing contractor software, and we can do that in such a way that we can even roll it out for free as long as we know who's got a new roof. So part of what they talk about here is saying there's a strategic value to know who has a new roof, because if you're selling insurance, you then have a much better leg up on the rest of the industry, because you know exactly who just got a new roof. You know, now might be a good time to go market to them and say, hey, I can beat the competitor that is underwriting your home contract right now for insurance. So that's one example of how Porch is going out there and leveraging access to that customer. Here's a whole set of examples of the services they provide or would like to provide. So the core focus being like before the move, inspecting, during the move, moving in, but even after that, think about moving in and now you need to do something with your TV mount. You need to do some carpet cleaning. You want solar. You want some utilities set up. You want your gutters clean. You need a new handyman. You're in a new town. You're in a new part of town. So they want to continue this. They want to say, oh, when you need an electrician, we're going to be there for you. You're going to do remodeling. We can also support that. So each one of these is its own separate business that has tens of thousands of contractors across the US, all run by different flavors of operating systems. None of them are necessarily, there are no like national chains. That's what I like about this. There are no national chains out there that you can turn to, and it's the same thing in LA as it is in Austin, as it is Boston. They're all local. It's like a grocery store. Like they're regional. They're even more local. They're like hyper local. So this helps provide some of that missing infrastructure to those small businesses. And it doesn't do it in a way that takes away from them. It does it in a way that adds value along the way. So here's some of their financials. They were just brought public through a SPAC where they got $220 million in cash. They've got very low debt, $40 million. There's a decent equity structure here. Here's, I think, the most interesting part, and a lot of these slides come from the company investor relations, which I'll link to. You can see over here on the left where they've got the SaaS, where they get $4 per transaction using Porch. But if the roofer, let's say, or the inspector chooses to use the software for free and give access to the customers, Porch is making 6 times more money. So that means they can afford to not just give it away for free. They could pay you to use the software to get access to your customers and know, oh, these people are moving. It's time to start marketing way ahead of everybody else. These people need new cable. It's time to start marketing and having relationships way ahead of everybody else. Porch has a potential to grow over the next 5 to 10 years. Here you can see they had $73 million of revenue in 2020, and they're expected to grow significantly, 50% for 2021. And they're not just looking at growing by doing organic growth. They're saying, hey, we can roll up some of these smaller players. We can roll up the best service as a service that already exists in roofing. We don't have to go do everything from scratch, and we can leverage the network because we know how to take advantage of those customers once we have them in a way that isn't always obvious to everyone else. Here's a breakdown of what their revenue distribution looks like. The SaaS part is generating about 11% of their revenue. Their moving services is really the core of their revenue right now, and this is selling to other moving services where they run a marketplace, they do their own moving, and then selling to consumers as well. It's including lumping all that together, and then post-move services representing about 23%. The leadership for this company is invested in planning out strategically who to go out and acquire. So it's not a secret. They're going out there and saying, who is the best? How do we make a good pitch for these other companies and target them and start executing and bringing them in now and saying, okay, if we can grow this company, remember they're making 6 times as much if they can bring in a company and have access to somebody else's customers. So the more customers they bring in, the more money they make. Valuing this kind of company is never that easy because they're growing a lot right now and they're not focused on profitability. They're focused on market share and becoming one of the few winners in the future. So you're not going to see 5 winners in this kind of environment. You're going to see 1 or 2 winner take most. And a comparison here would be, okay, for 2021 expected revenue, they're at 4 times enterprise value for revenue. How that compares for other services like AppFolio that are at 13, or CoStar Group that's at 14. Just showing here, okay, in the real estate sector, they're still undervalued. They're closer when it comes to just a place like Angie's List, which is home services marketplace. But Angie's List, that's basically all they do. They're providing a connection between the consumer and the provider of the service. But what they're not doing is leveraging that and marketing across the way and providing this as a tool. Here's a look at what their revenue looked like from expected 20 to 21. We can see 70 million in revenue, up 135% to 170. Now that's not all apples to apples because they've already made one merger and you would expect some of that to go up. Even if we exclude that merger, they're still at about a 40%, 50% increase in revenue year over year. So they're growing very quickly. They're growing right now. They're not really going to be profitable until that 1-2 years down the road. But their gross margins are doing great. They're at 79.3% gross margins, which is a really good gross margin for any company. Okay, next, let's talk about portfolio update. Last time we talked, I was right at around 155,000. If you're new to this channel, what I do is share my own personal portfolio and what I'm investing in. This is the list: ARKG, ARKK, Tesla, and the Vanguard Midcap Index Fund. ARKK and ARKG did better than Tesla in the last 2 weeks. I'm not worried about Tesla. There's going to be volatility with Tesla. You just have to be used to that by now and know that for me, over the next 10 years is where the value comes in with Tesla, not over the next 10 months. So I'm okay if that price fluctuates. What I've been looking for is, okay, instead of investing in ARKG and ARKK, what are some clear winners that I think will provide a lot of differentiated value for the future? And Porch looks like one of those to me. So I plan to open a position in Porch over the next week, and looking forward to seeing how they grow. Here's another view of what this portfolio has looked like over the last year. I've been really happy with it. The rate of return has been 265%, so that's not bad, right? That's not too bad. I don't think that's going to be that way all the time, but I'll take it for now. One closing thought I'll leave you with is a lot of people worry, and there's good reason to worry. Are we in a bubble? Is this a bubble? Are we going to repeat what happened in 2000? And right now, I would say no. This very well could be a correction coming. There's no doubt about that. That is going to happen. But are we in a bubble? No, these companies have real revenue. They have a real engine to grow more, and they know how to do it. They have followed a model that says grow out horizontally, scale your customers, leverage them. Make your services and your products better, and they're making real money. These are Porch is an example of a company that is making real money and has a real valuation and has wonderful growth prospects. So there's a chance that there's going to be a correction tomorrow. No one can stop that. But investing along the way is, in my opinion, is the best way to plan for the future.